Agriculture remains the mainstay of the Nigerian economy, providing the main source of livelihood for most Nigerians. With over 80 million hectares of arable land and a population of over 200 million people, the potential for business success is huge. However, the sector faces many challenges, notably an outdated land tenure system that constrains access to land, a very low level of irrigation development, limited application of research and new technologies, and the distribution and high cost of farm inputs. Other constraints to the development of the investment and the sector are poor access to credit, ineffective procurement and distribution of inputs, inadequate storage facilities, and poor access to markets. Many thanks for joining us today on TV and Business Daily. I am Chiwendo Osisiago. Today we shall be discussing on Nigerians' path to economic recovery, Agro revolution to the rescue. Before we proceed with our discussion, let's look at the business news making headlines. Deposit money banks and merchant banks in the country borrowed 1.81 trillion naira from the Central Bank of Nigeria in the first quarter of the year. In April, they borrowed 274 billion naira from the EPAS Bank, thereby increasing the amount borrowed to 2.08 trillion naira in the first 4 months of the year, according to data obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria. According to CBN reports, the bank continued to assess the standing facilities window to square up their positions, and in the first quarter, economic figures showed that applicable rates for the SLF and the SDF stood at 15.50 and 8.50% respectively in March. The CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele at the last Monetary Policy Committee meeting said data indicated that total gross credit grew by 3.3 trillion naira since May 2019 to 18.9 trillion naira in June, showing increased lending to manufacturing, consumer credits, general commerce, ICT, and agriculture. Latest figures from the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation have shown that the oil firm made under recovery of 5.348 billion naira in June this year. However, under recovery is the losses incurred by the oil firm due to the difference between the subsidized price at which the corporation sells petrol and the price which it should have received to meet its production cost. The federal government, through the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, officially commenced a petrol pricing regime on March 19, 2020 that saw to the halt in petrol subsidy. The PPPRA, through its pricing regime, ensured that petrol prices were fixed on a monthly basis in accordance with the fluctuation of crude oil prices in the market. The data contained in the latest June 2020 Financial and Operations Report of NNPC show that the corporation incurred 5.348 billion naira as subsidy on imported petrol in June. Again, the dispensing of auto gas and into automobiles through selected filling stations across the country will commence by the end of September, the federal government said. It was gathered that the auto gas to be dispensed into automobiles and other prime movers include liquefied petroleum gas, compressed natural gas, and liquefied natural gas, depending on the type of vehicle. Documents obtained from the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources in Abuja on Friday stated that the Committee on National Gas Expansion Program had been assigned to ensure the effective implementation and take-off of this initiative. Meanwhile, the NGEP was inaugurated in January this year by the Ministry of State for Petroleum Chief Timi Peresiva in furtherance of the domestic gas expansion program of the federal government. The federal government has resolved to inject over 600 billion naira as stimulus response into Nigeria's agricultural sector. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Sabo Nanono, has said. Nanono said the fund will target small-scale farmers to ensure food security and sustainability. It disclosed this while on a tour of Dangote fertilizer plant and during a crucial meeting with other fertilizers companies in Lagos to galvanize their cooperation for their production of inputs. The minister comments were contained in a statement issued on Sunday in Abuja by the Director of Information, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Theodore Ogazichi. Nanono explained that the 600 billion naira stimulus response, which targets farmers nationwide, would take off with an initial 2.4 million farmers in the first instance. He further explained that to avoid the abuse of government funds and good intentions, The good support would be in kind as would come in the form of inputs and not cash as was practiced in the past. And that's the business update on Television Nigerian. I am Chiwendu Osisiago. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
My name is Chiwendu Osisiago, presenter Television Nigerian Business Daily. In a globalizing world, ours is to keep you engaged, informed, and educated on contemporary happenings in the business world. We therefore command a special audience of business-minded viewers who are eager to know more about business. I mean, your business. Why don't you take advantage of our special affordable offer to let the world know about your concepts, your goods, and of course, your services? You can call us on 080-3071-6959 or 070-3234-9054. You can also visit us at Television Nigerian in Guzapi, Abuja, and follow us on all the social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Your business is our concern.
Business Daily. Like I said earlier, we shall be discussing on Nigerians' path to economic recovery, the Agro revolution to the rescue. My guest is here in the studio. He is a public relations practitioner and also a journalist, and also, most importantly, is a farmer, Mr. Julius Uga. You're welcome to TV and Business Daily today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And how was the weekend?
Well, it was beautiful and it was rainy. Saturday was very rainy, and the rain is good for the agro-allied industry,
Okay, yeah.
especially for farming.
Yeah, so you're on the farm all through the weekend?
Something like that.
Okay, reading through your profile, we know that you are a journalist, you're a PR practitioner, and also a farmer. So how do you combine this, the three together?
Okay, I'm a journalist by training and qualification, and a PR practitioner also by training and qualification. I'm a farmer by vocation, and I'm no longer into mainstream journalism. So a lot of what I do now is freelance.
Okay.
Yeah, freelance journalism, freelance editing, and a little bit of consulting. Farming is, like I said, my vocation. When you say I'm a farmer, some of our viewers might think that I own land. Well, I don't own land in Abuja. I'm a farm worker.
Okay.
I would describe myself as
a farm worker,
a farm hand, a farm laborer.
All right.
And then I happen to have a passion for the activity. Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Julius. And once again, you're welcome to TV and Business.
Thank you so very much.
All right, moving forward at the moment, let's talk about this agriculture. Do you agree that agriculture is the pathway to economic recovery?
I would say definitely yes, but agriculture is just one of the ways to our economic recovery. There are so many other ways to economic recovery, but you know as well as I do that food is one of the basic necessities of survival. So we must eat to live. And if you look at the history of Nigeria, for instance, we've been told over and over again that at one point before we discovered oil, what we had as our main economic sustainability resource was agriculture. Agriculture was our strategic resource, and we had we hear stories. Unfortunately, we don't see them again. We had granite pyramids in Kano. We had timber coming. We were exporting timber from the southern part of the country. We were exporting cocoa, palm produce, and all of that. And today, if you look at the price index for commodities, you see that palm oil and cocoa are competitively doing better than gold. And oil, it's not oil that has the highest volume of value on the price index, it's palm oil. And who says that we must continue to live on crude oil? I mean, if we harness the agricultural value chain, if Nigeria can harness the agro value chain to its maximum capacity, Harnessing that value chain means ensuring processing of our agricultural resources. For if you want to make a comparison, for instance, you will see that what is happening to Nigeria in oil is what has happened to us in agriculture. Only that of agriculture preceded oil. We are the 8th largest producer of oil in the world. We should basically be the major source of petroleum product supply across the West African sub-region. But what are we doing? We didn't maximize the oil value chain. We sell petroleum, crude oil, and then we import finished petroleum products. That's undercutting ourselves. That's shooting ourselves in the foot. Nigeria should be capable of refining its own oil for local consumption and for supply at least across the West African sub-region. We should be the major powerhouse. We are not the only oil endowed country in the world, but we happen to be the only ones who are selling the crude and taking back refined oil. So we've not maximized the value of what has been given to us. Ditto in agriculture. If we had agro-processing sufficiency, for instance, there will be a lot of jobs, there will be a lot of wealth in the economy. I mean, just like the example I gave you about palm oil. Let me give you an instance. For instance, if you go to Cross River State, there was once a very large estate of rubber and oil plantations.
Okay.
That estate was called, I think, Cross River Estates Limited and Cross River Oil Palm Limited, something. It was expansive. Now, the moment the economy switched keys and moved from agricultural production, simply because we got cheap oil from selling crude, we got cheap money from selling crude oil, we abandoned all those things. And today they are just lying there as just making very minimal contributions to the economy of Cross River State and other states as well. And then every month you have governors converging in Abuja to share what has been sold from oil. So anytime the price of oil crashes, the economy crashes as well. So we must realize that if we find a hoard of gold in the Atlantic Ocean, or a reserve of uranium in the Sahara Desert, or a cache of diamonds on Mount Kilimanjaro, we are not going to eat gold and diamond and uranium. We must eat food, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yes. So agriculture has to be fully harnessed, because human beings are going to continue to eat for as long as we live on this planet, and the way to go is to revamp the agricultural sector. That's all I can say for a brief.
Okay, you spoke more on the crude oil and of course on the agricultural sector. So are you saying that the government is not actually doing enough in that sector, in the agricultural sector to be specific?
I would say for a long time, the government practically did nothing, and they let the sector totally collapse. And there is evidence in the fact that we no longer have the agriculture extension services, the agri-development projects, the river basin development authorities. These were establishments that ran agriculture fully. They had farms, demonstration farms, they employed labor, they produced products that were sold. You understand? So, to the extent to which the government abandoned that because there was oil, I would say the government has not done enough. But in recent, the government has had to make agriculture into frontline objective policy as a principle of state action. And in doing that, I would say they need to do more. Okay. They need to do more in the fact that they should realize agriculture is not supposed to be a bureaucracy. You don't just have agriculture and you have a Ministry of Agriculture. It's a practical thing. The ministry just deals with documentation and filing and administration and all of that. But the real thing has to be done on extension services. The farmers out there have to be reached, and they have to be if you like, convinced, persuaded. You have to take them into policy implementation. Let them know that a lot of improvement in the economy depends on the input they make. Make them feel the fact that they are important, as much as the bureaucrats who sit in offices are. That they who are out there trying to feed the nation are actually important. So the government needs to bring farmers onto the table and encourage them beyond what they are doing. And they are doing a great deal, I must tell you, but they need to do more.
Okay, yeah, in your first statement, you said the government were not doing well. But looking at the closure of the border, they've actually closed the border for the improvement of local production. Are you not going to at least give them kudos on that?
Yeah, I remember I did that. I do that a lot.
Okay.
Yes, I do that a lot. The closing of the borders was a fantastic policy, and I think it needs to remain so. Unfortunately, in the news has been the fact that the closing of borders was being used by our neighbors in West Africa against us, which is quite unfortunate. We closed our borders in order to help ourselves stabilize. We couldn't maximize productivity if we continue to import what we eat. Now, we didn't close borders because of our neighbors. We closed our borders in spite of them. There are citizens who are in our country are benefactors from the fact that we close our borders, because we're trying to protect our business and protect them as well. But they are now taking policies, for instance, what is happening in Ghana. They are now taking decisions that are victimizing us for closing our borders and, visiting, if you like, aggression on our citizens. It's quite unfortunate. We didn't take decisions we didn't directly close our borders because of Ghanaian citizens resident in Nigeria. No, we took that decision because of the Nigerian economy, and the government owes Nigerians the first right of, if you like, best policy implementation and decision. So that policy was good, and that policy is basically to help us to improve our own local agro processing. And it keys into the government's policy. The government introduced the anchor borrowers scheme that the central bank is helping to finance. The anchors are the processors, the agro processors, people who need to maximize their capacity utilization in production, but they need inputs. And the people who provide the inputs are the borrowers, they're the farmers. So if you have a Dangote factory, for instance, and he is into tomato processing, and he is able to help to mop up the tomato supply in the Nigerian market, because he turns it into processed tomato, a finished product. I mean, it is a positive development compared to when you have too much tomato in the market just rotting because there is nobody to buy it. Okay. So to this extent, we would say the government is trying to galvanize a sector that had died back into life.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Julius Oga. Now, moving forward, let's talk about this post-COVID-19. How do you think the agricultural sector has impacted the economy severely?
Yeah, it did. Fortunately, during the lockdown, one of the sectors that was given an exception and an exemption was agriculture. Some of the things we are allowed to move across the country were agricultural products, and some of the people that were told the security authorities and others who needed to be informed were told to let move around freely were farmers. Be that as it may, it still impacted negatively on the sector to the extent to which the markets were locked down. You see, agriculture has an allied sector. You produce and you produce in order to sell. And when the markets are not fully functional, what you produce may not be able to make the cycle of, production, marketing, trading, and all of that. So the cycle is incomplete, and to that extent, there could be a lot of losses. So that COVID-19 impacted virtually on everything, irrespective of the ease of restrictions and all of that. It impacted negatively on everything.
So now, how can you rate our local rice now? A lot of people are not eating local rice. All right, let's take a. Okay, you want to say something about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I will only say that we are doing very well. We are, and we shouldn't discourage ourselves. A lot of the time, when we make comparisons and talk about the Asian tigers, we talk about Malaysia, we talk about China, we talk about India. We're not ready to make the sacrifices those people made to get to where they have gotten. So we should make the sacrifices. Malaysia, we keep reading and hearing the stories of their oil. They are the major oil producing, palm oil supplier in the world today. We're told they took the seeds from Nigeria. So we should, and they've maximized their capacity in that, and they are now the dominant power. So let us continue to focus on improving the quality of our rice. We will get to a point where we will be able to have enough rice and to also begin to ask our neighbors, come and buy rice from Nigeria. Definitely. There's nothing wrong with it.
We're getting there soon. All right, let's take a quick break, and after the break, we'll continue with our discussion. Please stay with us.
My name is Chiwendu Osisiago, presenter Television Nigerian Business Daily. In a globalizing world, ours is to keep you engaged, informed, and educated on contemporary happenings in the business world. We therefore command a special audience of business-minded viewers who are eager to know more about business, I mean your business. Why don't you take advantage of our special affordable offer to let the world know about your concepts, your goods, and of course, your services? You can call us on 080-3071-6959 or 070-3234-9054. You can also visit us at Television Nigerian in Guzapi, Abuja, and follow us on all the social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Your business is our concern.
With us again on the program, and if you're just joining us again at CVN Business Daily, and we've been discussing on Nigerians' path to economic recovery, agro revolution to the rescue. My guest has been in the studio discussing on that. He is a journalist, PR practitioner, that's public relations practitioner, and also a farmer. His name is Mr. Julius Uga. Okay, my last question for you, sir, is that how may agriculture provide a panacea, to all the economic challenges such as unemployment and inflation?
Oh, thank you very much. I earlier talked about agro processing. It's quite unfortunate that we produce a lot of cocoa in the southwest and south and some parts of the southeast of Nigeria. For example, I'm using cocoa as an example. We produce a lot of cocoa, and unfortunately we import chocolate. And that is because we have not maximized the value chain. And we're the biggest cassava producer in the world. And we don't have industries that turn cassava into finished product. All we do is local consumption and minimal input into some feeder industries that for some reason or the other, like pharmaceutical companies, may need cassava. So if the processing, let me give you another example. If you travel through Benue State in March, April, May, you'll be amazed at the amount of fruits that come to waste. The farmers of oranges and mangoes, for instance, will be struggling on the roadside to sell a basket of orange for 200 naira, 300 naira. And that's how they struggle to sell what they can sell. And these are perishable products. Yeah. Before you know it, they are rotted and they are discarded. if Benue State had processing factories for these products, it will maximize the value it adds to its own economy within its own borders. It will empower the farmer. He won't have to, the women and the children won't have to be struggling to sell a basket of orange by the roadside, because there will be an uptaker who buys these oranges from them. You understand? And when there is a processing factory, what happens? Employment is generated.
Definitely.
Do you understand? So, and it applies to many other products. In Cross River, we sell cocoa in trucks and trailers and all of that to be exported. Why? Why can't Cross River State have a cocoa processing factory and employ its own people to work in that factory and train its own people to become professionals and technicians and all what? That is how some of the Asian tigers we talk to add value to their economy. So it doesn't end with me being a yam farmer and harvesting a pickup load of yams and it goes to the market and that ends it. I just take 10,000 naira for that value of yam. Meanwhile, if I could process that yam into, or if there was a company to buy that product and process it into yam flour or any other derivative that comes from yam, I would be richer. The country will be richer. I'll be paying tax to the government. The government will be taxing the companies, the agro, and then there will be income, there will be a flow of resources in the economy. So, to the extent to which we have not maximized agro processing and have not completed the agro value change, and we are concentrating on just production, to that extent, there will be fewer people employed and the ripple effect of that. So that much I would say is a drawback to us. But agriculture, sure, is a big time employer if it is fully maximized.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you've spoken more on the creation of these agro processing companies by the government. What more do you think the government, not just government, Nigerians as an individual, can do to help the agricultural sector to thrive?
The African Development Bank recently told us that the agricultural sector by 2030, 2030 is like 10 years from now, will be $1 trillion worth of wealth. The agriculture and agro-allied sector, the food sector, will be worth $1 trillion, not $100 billion, $1 trillion. And for us as a people, I have always said, and I'll continue to plead, that we should stop this value disorientation of thinking that there's a shortcut to wealth.
Okay.
Yes, we have to learn agriculture. We make the mistake of thinking that anything that is physically engaging you is stressful. It is not. You were made to be active. That's why you have 2 hands and 2 legs. It's to keep you moving. It's to respect the law of movement. And the law of movement entails activity, and agriculture is activity. So those of us who go and acquire higher degrees and think that that is where the El Dorado ends, a lot of the time we're making mistakes. In other climes, I think the technical sector, that is the people who are artisans, are better off, more respected. Some even earn more than the so-called professionals and degree holders and certificate owners. So we need to encourage ourselves and think that between 1960 and now, that we dumped agriculture and went into the oil bureaucratic economy. What has happened to us? We've not made any progress. Those that are not endowed with oil, for goodness sake, are making a mileage from agriculture. And even those who have oil have not let agriculture rest because they know that they need to feed their population. They have to be food sufficient. Food has become a strategic weapon of war, of global politics, of anything. And we hear stories of some economies that have excess commodities that they take to dump in the sea so that they can keep the control on pricing. We hear it. I have tried to research to find out if it is true or not, but if it were true, such economies are also the ones who control the circulation of information across the world, so they will do well to suppress it. But you can imagine somebody having excess, and instead of giving it to his neighbor who doesn't have, he dumps it in the sea so that the price can remain at the level that is economically profitable to him. We are not respecting the law of balance. The law of balance entails that there should be a value in giving and taking. So we should give of our best to the fact that we are in a climate that promotes agricultural production, and oil was supposed to have just been a bonus. If we had remained a federation and a fiscal federation as we were supposed to be, whereby the oil is not controlled by the federal government but by the region where it is found, who will produce and sell their oil and only pay, make remittances or to the federal government as is necessary. If we had remained like that, I think we would not have gotten to a point where we dumped the entire sector and then all coming to Abuja to share oil money. So I will tell Nigerians that personally, as an individual and as a family and in your small communities, remain steadfast to the fact that oil money may not get to you. So keep working.
With our culture,
yes.
It will help you a lot. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Julius Ogan. Now, what's your final message to probably the government and to Nigerians and also to your co-farmers?
Thank you very much. Like I mentioned in passing a while ago, we should respect the law of balance as human beings. If we do not respect the law of balance, then we will remain in a situation of instability. Balance provides for stability. There has to be an equitable value in giving and taking. Because there is not that equilibrium. That is why we have inflation in the economy, because people are concentrating on taking. We're concentrating on profit. We're not concentrating on the fact that we need to exchange value for value, like we used to do in the days of trade by barter. That was what we did. We exchanged value for value. You give me your phone, and I give you something that equates to the value of your phone. So if we continue, there is no reason why Africa is like the last frontier of material and resources in the world, and mineral resources. There's no reason why we should be the victims of inflation. There's no reason why it is our own currency that is undervalued. There's no reason why we are the owners of the golds and the diamonds, and some of us are the owners of oil, and yet it is the dollar that is denominated as the price value for those commodities. So to the extent to which these imbalances occur, we will continue to be at a disadvantage. But we can help ourselves. We can help ourselves in the sense that we should support the government to continue to take those decisions that we feel are very hard and difficult. The hard and difficult decisions are always the ones that move nations forward. Hard and difficult decisions are what has built the United Arab Emirates, that is called Dubai, are what has built Korea. Korea is an industrial economy as we speak. It is no longer Japan and Great Britain and Germany. So let us realize the fact that those difficult decisions that we are always complaining about are for the short term. We should look at the long picture benefit of what will happen. Even if I am not the one that will benefit from a difficult decision that is taken today, I should make the sacrifice for my children. Yes, because that is how generations are built. That's how economies and nations are built. People are planning for the future, using today to plan for the future, making the sacrifices today. But we discover that in Nigeria, whenever someone has to make a sacrifice, he complains and grumbles, and he becomes an enemy of the state and all kind of. We will never make progress by that kind of negativity. So we have to be realistic.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Julius Oga, for coming on TV and Business. You've said it all that we should respect the law of balance, that's the equitable value of giving and taking, and you also emphasize that we as Nigerians should also help the government in order to help the agricultural sector to thrive, and you also emphasize on realistic. Thank you very much, Mr. Julius Oga, for coming on TV and Business. It's good to have you today.
It's a pleasure of being on your show. Thank you very much.
And that's the much we have for you today on TV and Business Daily. I am Chiwando Osisiago. And don't forget that you can follow us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Do you have a wonderful day. Bye for now.